Emmett Flood unexpectedly showed up to the briefings. Democrats said that was highly inappropriate. The White House said the pair made brief remarks at the start of those meetings and talked about the president's desires for transparency, but they say both left after just a minute or two and that neither stayed for the entire meetings. Arthel?
Ellison Barber, thank you very much, Ellison. Mike?
Arthel, for more on this, Hans von Spakovsky is a legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation and former Justice Department official. Good to see you, sir. So Rudy Giuliani of the president's legal team was on Fox News Sunday arguing that Robert Mueller's probe is not based on facts, calling it a witch hunt investigation. Your take on that?
Well, let's go back to what supposedly started all of this. The only information the FBI had was political opposition research that they had neither verified nor checked to make sure whether any of the allegations were true. And they used that to go to the secret FISA court and get a warrant for electronic surveillance. That is not the way you start off a law enforcement investigation of a opposition political presidential candidate. You only do that if you have substantial, hard evidence of a major violation of federal law. They didn't seem to have that.
So the top leaders of Congress and some key committee chairs were briefed on classified information about whether the FBI used an informant to infiltrate the Trump campaign. Is the surprise here that the contents of those briefings hasn't leaked out?
Well, I found that very interesting. I also found it interesting that when the Democrats came out, I think it was Adam Schiff said, well, there wasn't a spy in the campaign. But notice he didn't say there was neither a spy nor an informant in the campaign. And if that had been the case, I'm sure he would have said it. So that pretty much confirms that the FBI had an informant that they were using. Again, that is, to me, quite unbelievable, because you don't do something like that unless you first have substantive evidence of a violation of federal law. And they just didn't seem to have that when they were doing it.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says after that briefing Thursday that he supports the Robert Mueller probe and the Justice Department Inspector General's investigation. Does that give them some cover to finish their work?
Well, it does give them cover, particularly the Inspector General. You know, the Inspector General is looking at all the issues that have been raised about whether the DOJ and FBI officials involved were actually acting appropriately or whether they were possibly abusing, again, the FISA statute. And I think it's very important that the IG completely look into that and determine whether this was a justified investigation or whether it was a partisan, political undertaking directed from the White House and by the Justice Department.
The briefings Thursday were classified, so most lawmakers didn't say anything about it. The Democrats all came out with this line about saying they didn't hear anything in there that changed their view. Any surprise there?
Well, no, because they've been taking that line all along. But I think it's very important that DOJ and the FBI stop stalling, stop trying to prevent information and documents being given from the committees in Congress that are investigating this, because those congressional committees have a constitutional right, when they're doing oversight, to look at what's happening and make sure that the law is being properly followed.
And while things are hyper-partisan these days in Washington, former independent counsel Ken Starr says it's important to stick to the facts. Take a listen.
We can play these word games. The key is, what are the facts? Let's get the facts. Let's assess the facts. And then in this country, we need accountability. Why was this done? What was the basis for it?
Your thoughts on that viewpoint?
Oh, I agree with him. And part of the facts here is that as of today, after more than a year of investigating, so far, Robert Mueller hasn't produced a single piece of evidence of any kind that there was actually any Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. So far, there's no evidence of that at all. Maybe he's got something secret, but to date, there's been no evidence produced. And remember, that's what this whole investigation was started over.
Hans von Spakovsky, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Many thanks for your time, sir. Have a wonderful day. Arthel?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. And okay, Mike, Marines on standby in Hawaii as waves of boiling hot lava continue to wipe out every